looks like we're recording, so we're good to go. All right, well, good afternoon, KW South Bay. How's everyone doing? Come on, we can that. Much better. We have a lot to provide you today. Big, huge announcement too that we had on Friday. So we're going to be bringing that up today as well. We have our chili cook-off right after our team meeting too. So I'm super excited about that as well. You guys all ready?
Yeah.
Come on, are you guys really ready? All right, let's go ahead and get started. You know how we do it here at South Bay. Next slide, please. Our mission to provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, and motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our belief, when the values of your own company align with your own beliefs, you know you found your professional home. And our vision to achieve amazing professionals and personal development so that KW South Bay remains the agency of. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for being part of this amazing market center. All right, next I wanted to bring Vanessa and introduce you to our newest productivity coach. We had a chat with a lot of the mentees last Friday. And it's been something in the behind the scenes that we've been working hard. And thanks to Fred as well, who has been spearheading the productivity program for the last, 2-3 years now. You know, we're doing a relaunch of this amazing productivity program. So I wanted to introduce you and welcome back again, Vanessa. Yeah, we never heard. She used to be part of our office, and then she ended up going to the West Side. So Vanessa is going to be now spearheading the productivity program and launching with the amazing agents that we have right now. Last week, how many agents did we have? About 40 something, and then we have about 6 that were on Zoom. And it was 1 hour, just boom, 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 answer questions, and everyone was super excited. So without further ado, we want to introduce you to Vanessa. Vanessa, do you have anything you'd like to share? Just give us a 2-minute bio of yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be back in the South Bay. I've been in the business for over 18 years. I have 2 kids, so I know what it's like to run a business and run a family. And I'm really excited to teach our new agents how to have a balanced, successful business. So put them into production quick. That's my goal. If anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to be a resource to all of you.
Amazing. And she's going to be taking one of the newest office. Have you checked out the office already? We added another 4 new offices, so she's going to be closer to Brandon Beers' office. And we're super excited about this new venture and really happy with the transition and passing the torch. So again, Vanessa, thank you so much for taking on the role and being part of South Bay again. So let's give her a round of applause. Okay, now with that, next slide, if I can get Mr. Fred Howard up here. So with that being said, I am super excited as well, right? So with the transition in passing the torch, Fred Howard from a productivity coach now will transition. He's still going to be one of our amazing mentors, okay? So he's going to stay as a mentor, but he's also going to transition into the assistant team leader role as well and helping me navigate this awesome office as well. So let's give a round of applause to Fred, and then we'll get Fred on the Hey, whose house is it? No.
Hey, you know what? I am excited, even more so. I've always been excited, but being here for the past 19 and a half years, 20
Only
years.
19?
Only 19. I'm going to be true. 2005 to 19 and a half, 20 years. You've developed relationships, and I feel it an honor to be able to stand alongside Simon, Jennifer, and Minnie to help this office get to even beyond where it is. To have Vanessa come on board is amazing, and to help our agents get into production is one of our main goals so that we can be the #1 office in the South Bay. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, y'all, make some noise. So, you know, I'm always, you know where I am, so I'm just glad to be here, and we're gonna change my picture too, because I need my AI picture, so. You know. But thank you.
And just another note, you know, side by side with Vanessa, you know, Vanessa is going to spearhead and ultimately take, you know, the lead of the program, right? With her leadership, with Fred, and then we have a couple more mentors that are going to spearhead the productivity program. We're going to see some very exciting things, you know. I know Vanessa, I know her mindset, and I know what she is capable of delivering. So I'm really excited to see some big results and get all of our agents into production. So you're happy, we're happy, and everyone is happy, right?
Yeah.
So let's give these two a round of applause. All right. That was exciting.
Yeah.
October is good time for sure. All right, let's continue. Next slide. All right, just a friendly reminder, please save this date, okay? We have our business planning clinic. And what I am so passionate about this is we're going to keep it in-house. So please mark your calendar. You have two locations, okay? You have the KW Coastal Properties. That'll be Thursday, November 14th from 9:30 to 3 p.m. Then we have here at the South Bay and combined with PV. So PV and South Bay will merge together and we will have it here Thursday, November 21st from 9:30 to 3 p.m. More details to obviously follow. So it's really an opportunity to start focusing on your business for 2025, planting the seed, doing the necessary activities to prepare for the first quarter of 2025. Can you believe it, folks? We're there already. Month of October is going to go quick, November and December, and before you know it, we're in January, okay? So this is a great foundation to get a good understanding on how your business should be looking at as we close out the year, right? And then more so the opportunity to really now focus on what your next year's projections are, right? You know, if our goal is to do X amount of units, right, or gross commission, right? This is the time and an opportunity, and this is why it's important for all of you to take advantage of it, okay? And the awesome part of it is at no cost. That's the beauty of it, okay? There will be some I believe some breakfast or donuts and all that stuff, and then lunch also will be provided by one of our affiliate sponsors. Okay. Any questions regarding the business clinic? Okay.
With two different days and different sections, or
Yeah, so it's going to be similar. So if you miss the South Bay Torrance and PV, you can always go to the Long Beach one. It's going to be the same curriculum. Yeah, but we're going to have different instructors. Myself is going to be one of them, and all the team leaders are going to be giving us a perspective and a vision of what the business is all about. Okay. Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's continue. All right, we're going right into it with Chris Rivera. Let's give Chris a round of applause. Yeah, not today, my man. We got food.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Seriously, it's really fascinating. Although we did wonderful chili out there. So you guys all know rates went down 2 weeks ago, right? Well, just like it always happens, rates have bumped up since then, but not to be alarmed. And I want to take you back to a phrase we talked about last year, right? Marrying the property, date the rate, because that's really relevant for your buyer's mindset. Because they think rates went down, right? And they see rates from 2 weeks ago that were 5.9. Now we're at 6.25, 6.75, depending on FICO score, loan amount, that sort of thing. Right? So what happened? Well, it was just employment figures came out. They were actually really good for the month of September. Spooked the market, rates go up. That's short-lived. We know the Fed's govs have said that they're going to lower rates at least twice more this year. Now, it might not happen, we might get one, but we know the direction of the market is downward. So don't let little work kind of get you guys off track. Hit your buyers, let them know rates are going down. Remember this phrase, marry the property, date the rates, right? Because at the end of the rainbow, all of the gurus that I'm reading, we're gonna see a slide of about 1.5% to interest rates. We think we're gonna get back below 5, so we're in the mid-4s. We possibly get lower than that, but I'm not gonna say that to a client. But when I talk to your clients over the phone, I'm showing them 2 rates and 2 monthly payments. I'm showing them the current monthly payment at 6.25, right? And then I'm gonna show them what it's gonna look like at 5. Because that's the reality of the market in the next 12 months, is rates will slide and they're going to refi, right? So I want to plant the seed now to show them, hey, you guys should buy because you guys are qualified. You guys can do this. Because when people ask me all the time, Chris, when's the best time to buy? I tell them when you can. Basically, when you can, that's when you should buy. I wish I would have bought 10 years before I bought my first house. And I don't think anyone in this room that owns a house wouldn't say the same thing. We would be sitting on more equity, right? And that's the same thing your clients are going to tell you 10 years from today. So get it out. Remember, marry the property, date the rate, right? Other than that,
Can I just ask?
yeah.
The reason behind marry the property and date the rate, what's the purpose around that?
Well, because you are actually setting in the value, right? When you buy something, let's say you bought something in North Torrance today for $1 million, you just set that price at $1 million, right? Irregardless of what your down payment is, that's the value of your house.
Right.
So that's where you're marrying the property. You marry that property at $1 million, right? And then you put, let's say, 200,000 down. Now you have a loan amount of 800. You're going to refi the $800,000 loan. You're going to lower that monthly payment. That's where the rate is, right? Because you're only going to date it for a short period of time, and then you're going to refinance into a lower rate. But your property value is at $1 million. Because if you have the mindset, well, I'm going to wait until rates get to the point where I want them to be, well, that sale price is no longer $1 million, right? Because of the the demand that's pushing that value up into $1,025,000, $1,050,000. Right, so they've weighted themselves into a worse transaction because now they're, or even though they have the same down payment, their loan balance is no longer 800,000, say 25, 850, 875, depending on what they buy, right? And that constitutes a higher monthly payment because at the end of the day, they're still going to get the same rate if they waited until the rates got to 5, or if they bought at a lower sale price and then refinance to the rate at 5. Yes.
I have a technical question. So if that theory or that scenario, marry the house, date the rate. So comparatively speaking, there's gonna be a lot of people trying to refinance because that's what we're selling them right now. We're selling them the house, not the rate. So technically in a market where there's a lot of people trying to refinance at the same time, how does that process work and how is that gonna affect the rate of the refinance if there is one?
That's not going to affect anything.
So it doesn't
That's on
affect-
us as lenders. We've got the staffing to cover the refi market when it comes, which we're in now. They'll just beef up support so we still get it done. Rates are immaterial of lenders. We don't set pricing. The market sets pricing, right? So the stock market sets the pricing. It's what bond yields traders are willing to pay for the yields. That's what sets pricing. That's where we get our money source from. But in terms of refinances and purchase, you guys don't need to worry about that. We've got that. As lenders, we've got staffing that will make sure the refis go smoothly. Purchases will always be looked at ahead of a refi. It just is. That's what we do. When we have 2 files, the purchase file is always going to take precedence over a refi file. Right?
So what are the costs entailed in refinancings? If say my client asks me, well, what's gonna cost me to refi?
It depends on the market at the time. You can't tell them the rate, but there's no cost for refinances. So
Is there any
zero.
cash out that they have to bring out of their pockets? to
It depends on what they want to do. On a refi, they could pay points and buy the rate down. They could pay no points. They could go no cost. So when we generate, it's a little higher interest rate, we generate enough rebate to pay all the costs. So it does make sense in some cases to go with maybe a 3 higher rate than market to pay all the costs because they're coming from a 7.5% rate down to a 6.25% rate at no cost. Why not? You're still getting a great savings, but at no cost with the mindset, we're gonna refi you again at 5% somewhere down the line. So it just depends. That's all unique and specific to the client at that time, but we have no cost refis. But to your question, typical refinance is about $4,200, $4,200 to $4,500 for escrow fees, letter fees, title fees, appraisal fees. That's typically what you'll see. It's about $4,200, right?
So what is the ideal time to refinance?
Good question. Good
So-
question. So always look for a 3/4 reduction in rates. That should be your barometer. Anytime you see someone that you can reduce them by 3/4, that's when it's gonna make sense. If it's less than that, it's gonna take them too long for the recapture period. There's other parameters that go into it. You're gonna look at the length of the, how long they've had the current loan, because you don't really want to start over again. Because everything they've paid, they've lost in terms of interest, right? So you've got to look at that stuff. I always look at break even. Yes, I'm saving you monthly payment, but we're gonna restart. So let's look at total payments of what you're currently doing versus what we're going to do for you, right? So there's a lot of other things that you look at, but typically it's 3/4 of a rate. Once you hit that mark, it'll make sense for them. Typically.
And these are the conversations you can be having with your clients, right? Remember the skill sets that you need in order to convince someone to pull the trigger and purchase something. Or invest in something, right? Or refinance something as well, so.
With the downward trend of the mortgage rates, I would tell them just wait a little longer and then refinance.
Not necessarily. So there's a cost for everything. On the surface, it makes sense to do what she just said. She said, oh, well, rates are at 6.25 right now. Why should I refi? I think they're gonna get down to 6% in 2 months, right? Well, you might be right, but there's a cost for everything, and you gotta, well, I need to show the client exactly why they shouldn't do it. Well, let's look at the cost, right? Because here's what you're paying now, which is higher. Here's what I could do for you today. This savings is a true savings. If you wait to get to that quarter reduction, what did it do to lower your monthly payment? And how much did you lose waiting for that rate to get there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so my question is, how much does a 3/4% have an effect on the mortgage itself?
It
What is
depends
that
on the loan.
3/4?
Yeah, it's based on loan.
It depends on the loan amount. Okay. So the higher the loan, the more you save.
Absolutely. Yeah, so waiting, that's just where we have to show them why they shouldn't wait, because there could be actually an added cost to them by waiting.
And you never know what the markets are gonna be doing.
Exactly, and then that's the last thing you end with is, you never know what to do.
Every Monday can find once a year.
What's that?
Every Monday can.
Every 6 months.
They can refinance once.
Technically, they can refinance at any point in time, because there's no prepayment penalty. We just ask as lenders, they don't. As I explained in my training last month, there's an EPO that happens, it's an early payoff. If a lender is paid off within 6 months from origination of that loan, or I should say funding of that loan, they will come back and take our commissions.
Oh, wow.
Think about that. You use real estate agents that are self-employed, sold a house, 3 months later, they sell that house for whatever reason, right? And then MLS comes back to you and says, oh, that commission you got. Right? So we just ask the clients not to do that, so it's every 6 months they can resign. Any other questions? Yes.
So a lender gives a new loan to a new mortgage loan to a buyer, knowing that it's gonna get reduced in the next few months. So do you offer to reduce it, refinance at a discount to keep that customer?
Yep.
Because that's what, as a lender I use is
Yeah.
doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just good, because that's your past
You
client.
can negotiate it.
Yeah, negotiate, absolutely.
Can you
Right.
repeat the question?
So her question was like, if you have a current client and they want to refi, will you give them a discount to refi that client?
Within
Because
for a certain period?
Nah,
Anytime.
it does anytime. Any past client, we don't go off full commission. Typically, I don't. Because they're my past client, you've already made money on them. We're just making more, right? It's just servicing your client. So you just make sure they're getting a really good deal. But yes, we give them discounts if they're.
I mean, they just bought the house now, and I negotiate with the lender for them to let them refinance in 6 months. But
Well-
it's right before the rate.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't have to renegotiate with a lender for 6 months. They just know they're going to do it in 6
Yeah.
months, and just wait that 6 month period again, so there's no EPO that gets triggered. So, again, that phrase, marry the property, date the rate. It really makes a lot of sense because if you wait, you're gonna put yourself into worse terms. Because when rates come down, like you think they're going to, like we all know they're going to, what's gonna happen to the buying demand? It's gonna increase, and the demand is gonna just kick up.
You don't lose the bride.
What's that?
You lose the bride.
But on that note too, look at the long game, right? If your client is planning to stay there for a very long time, and it doesn't matter what the rate fluctuates high, fluctuates low, right? The beauty is you have those options because you have a tangible asset now, right? And I am a true believer that real estate is like a piggy bank. Every month that you're paying that mortgage, you're increasing the value and reducing the mortgage payment as well. So that asset will eventually be free and clear, which, how many people can truly say, let's save, $7, $8, $1 million in the bank account, right? Well, real estate can't do that. So it's our position and our duty to really educate the clients, the reason and the importance of why home ownership is vital. There's tax incentives, there's appreciation, and it's a fixed mortgage for the remainder of the loan. Try doing that with your tenants right now, right? Every year they're gonna try to increase their rent, right? They're making them richer, but not yourself and your clients.
Right. And I did a presentation here a few months ago that showed someone who was walking into an open house in North Torrance, $1 million sale price, 5% down, $950. That one payment was roughly $8,000. The rent in that area was $4,000, right? And on the onset, it just looks like you should take the rent at $4,000 and pay $8,000 in a mortgage payment because of the things that Simon just said. I showed you over a 7-year period spread that you're about $230,000 better off buying that and having a higher mortgage. I can bring it back in a couple months. I can show you guys, come up here and with numbers, because numbers don't lie. They are what they are. Once you take into appreciation and tax benefits and the mortgage that you're paying down, you're just so far ahead than renting, even though renting is half of what the mortgage is. Just is. We're how the numbers work. All right, guys, remember, marry the property, date the rate.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Let's give our first. Always. And, having almost 30 years of experience behind him definitely helped as well. All right, well, let's continue. Any listing pitches, buyer needs and wants? Anyone have any coming soons? Yes, Diane, please.
It's kind of a repeat, but since I'm here physically, and I won't go through the details of all of them. If you guys want more details, go ahead and come to me and let me know. Otherwise, we'll be here forever. But I do have 5 condos on the market right now. They are all so reasonably priced that we are getting a lot of people who are obviously looking to owner occupied. However, the condos are currently tenant occupied and the seller intends to deliver them tenant occupied. So if you have investor clients, that's really, really what we're in need of right now. There is a possibility of a way around that for someone who wants to owner occupy, but really the easiest way would be to go with an investor who wants to scoop up one, the other, all 5, whatever. But if you guys have investor clients who are looking for, a pretty good deal, go ahead and come to me. There's 3 in Tarzana and 2 in Inglewood.
And so what's the price range?
Price range is anywhere between like $355 and $455.
That's at the highest or
They are not. The tenants have been in for quite a while. Yeah. So not market rents, but
And you said they're owner occupied or are they tenants?
they're tenant occupied. Tenant occupied. Yeah. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Are they month to month or on a lease?
Most of them are month to month. One is on a lease until next July. So 4 of them are month to month right now.
Good. Anyone else? Yes, Sammy, please. Speak loud too, please, so people on Zoom, because we got a big group on Zoom.
Just listed. 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom town home for lease in Padre de Ramos, gated community. It's $3,600 per family, $3,600 per month.
Awesome. Thank you, Sammy. Mika.
I have could be used as a vacation home or Airbnb. It's in Avalon, the city of, Catalina Island. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. and it is going for 1.4. It has a pretty high, HOA, $1,065 for the HOA, but it's beautiful. It's right at the, like the oceanfront of Harvey, well, it's right there at the water, and, yeah, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 baths. So, looking for investors primarily.
How do you, coordinate this on the?
Well, we're paying 10%, to the listing agent that's over there, so you may be able to take a boat ride over there. They have day boat rides. That's what I'm doing to meet with the agent. They have.
Better yet, why don't you just get a helicopter here? They even have an airport there too, so fly. We got a couple pilots who are agents here, maybe we can convince them, hey. You never know.
Yes.
Anyone else? No one else? Ellie, you usually have something, nothing on your end today? Okay. Good, yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and continue. All right, next slide, please. All right, the next one, and I want you to get your cameras out. We sent out an email, I believe last week, and if you didn't get this email, please scan this QR code, okay? This is the single property buyer broker agreement that we created, okay? So if you didn't get the email, by all means, just let the office know. We'll be more than happy to send you the email with the information on the one pager, okay? So the one pager is something that we created with the task force, the leadership, myself involved in it, to have those conversations more in leaning to investors, right? That don't want to sign an exclusive VRBC or the PSRA form, right? Non-exclusive buyer agreement. So it goes into just a very simple component of the opportunity to still service and work with a buyer. Now, next slide, Natalie. All right, so the new commission practice effective of September of 2024. An email was sent by me on the 22nd, details of our office commission practice. It was created by the attorneys, the task force, our ALC, and the leadership. It's important to read through the email and reach out if you have any questions. It's a very detailed email that was sent. Okay, next slide.
Can you email that out?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is this? It's a seller's, right? We would like to adhere to the intent of the lawsuit, right? Because of all of the changes that happened in the summer, right? With NAR settlement, commissions being removed from the MLS, now moving forward, working with buyers and having a buyer agreement signed. You know, sellers not negotiating the buyer's agent compensation. Remember, there's nowhere on the MLS that you can put any type of commission, right? No percentage, no flat fees, none whatsoever. The only thing that you can adhere to is that the seller is willing to consider concessions. And remember, concessions is closing costs, buy downs, request of repairs, and also the obligation for the buyer to pay their compensation to their buyer agent, okay? So if the sellers were to counter the buyer requesting to cover their broker compensation, do they do that counter the compensation amount, or do they counter the purchase price? Either one is perfectly fine. Next slide. How to market. Okay, it's how to market concessions, or it keeps changing. How to market concessions or compensation. We do not want it listed publicly. It goes against the intent of the lawsuit, right? So remember, if you do have a listing agreement, right, and now you're inputting it into the MLS, nowhere on agent remark or private remarks can you say anything about commission based to the buyer's agent, okay? The only thing that you can, there's a section of seller's concession, yes or no, that's it. Now, when you're ready to close out the MLS, right, after you successfully get it recorded, now it opens up a parameter in a different window now on the MLS that says what was that concession used for? And that concession has different categories. The categories is it went towards the buyer's agent's obligation to pay a commission. It went towards closing costs. It went towards improvements, which is the request of repairs, right? As you submit your request of repairs. And I don't recall what the fourth one is, but those are the options at the end. When you're ready to close it, the MLS, it gives you those options to put. And that's where the full transparency to be in compliance with the NAR seller. Okay. The sellers will consider concessions with the offer, and this is the dialogue that you can use for the listing agent to use. The sellers will consider concessions with the offer is open to entertaining any and all requests. All terms will be based on the merit of the offer, so please include your request. So when an agent is asking you over the phone, is the seller willing to pay concessions? The answer is either yes or no, or submit your offer and request. Remember, now with the offer, they also include, if they check G3 of the purchase agreement, and that populates the SPV form, right? Requesting the seller to pay the buyer's agent compensation, okay? So these are the ways that you navigate the conversation, right? In order to be in compliance.
Simon,
Yes,
and I also add for those that are doing that, don't get frustrated when the other agents are trying to get you to say something, because you're the professional and we're the ones that are getting the education. Just be confident.
Yeah.
You know, is it yes or no? Just answer yes or no and feel confident on standing there, and don't feel an obligation to yield into their argument that you have to tell them
that's right.
what it is.
Right. And I know that a lot of agents get frustrated with it, right? But it's no difference than if you understand the contract, that you know that an agent inquiring about how many offers and what the highest offer you have, that the listing agent should provide that information. And it's on the contract that says that they shall tell you. The only time they won't tell you is if you have it in writing from the seller instructing you not to provide that information. How many times have you called the agent and said, hey, how many offers do you have? What's the highest offer? And they say north of, south of, I'm not going to tell you, just submit your offer. Well, concessions is the same way now, ladies and gentlemen. It navigates the same thing. You don't want to put yourself in a position because you don't know who's on the other side of that phone call or that email. And now it compromises you because now you're in violation and broke one of the rules. Keep it very simple, very neutral. Seller is providing concession, please submit your request. That's it. There's nothing on the MLS that says compensation percentage-wise or flat fee. Okay? Theoretically, the buyer's agent, right, should submit their highest, right? I know when I would submit something, I'll submit it at 3% and hope that I get 3%. That's the beauty of negotiations, ladies and gentlemen. And more so is even if you throw in a high percentage, they can counter you, right? Three things can happen. The seller can accept, the seller can counter, or the seller can reject your request. Okay, those are the three components that can happen when it comes to concessions. Okay. The other question I get a lot is, well, if we're negotiating this and we get it accepted, and now we're going into our due diligence period, and now the buyer does their inspections, and now they feel that there's a lot of issues and they want to throw a request of repairs. Does that mean we cannot ask for additional concessions? The answer is you can continue to ask more. And whatever you negotiated in the front doesn't necessarily mean it's now part of the middle process of the transaction. Because if you really think about it, ladies and gentlemen, right? You think about it, it's always been the standard practice. We just knew and secure our commission from the very beginning, and then the buyer would go into escrow, do their due diligence, and then what would happen? Put in the request of repairs, right? And the concessions would be, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, right? And then the lender will look at it and determine, well, we can only use so much from that. Then you would have to kind of maneuver where the remainder, if any, was involved. That has not changed one bit, folks, okay? You can still ask for additional concessions. If a buyer agent follows up specifically asking about compensation, assuming the seller is willing to consider such a request, you say the following. Compensation will not be determined before receiving all terms of the offer, right? In essence, if you really think about it, why would I divulge all this information? What if the buyer and the buyer's agent are okay with 1%? Okay? And we just drew all of our cards and we could have saved the seller more, because the ultimate position is to, if you're working with the seller, is to net the most for the seller, right? For the seller. So in theory, you know, why would you throw all that information, right? This is the new norm now, the new practice in how we do business now. And more so if you are the listing agent, folks, okay? You want to shield and protect your client's rights, best interests. So let them just throw, that's the beauty of negotiations, okay? Now, you know, with all of it, right, the importance and of the understanding, right, we still need buyer agents. We still need qualified buyers, right? But if you were to weigh it out toe to toe, you got 4 offers that came in, right? And 4 offers have different price terms and conditions, right? And that last part would be is the concessions, right? That would either determine one from the other. That's also, and I've seen counter offers countering the concession, and then they're thinking like, why am I getting a counter from the seller on concessions? Is to see if you're willing to consider a different amount that you originally sent. Because if you send a 2.5% commission, someone else sent out a 2.25%, you know, that's a 0.25% difference that the seller is netting, right? And that could be the game changer of why they chose that offer over yours. So I've seen counter offers where they even say, the listing agent says, well, you know how we heard highest and best? Well, bring your concessions highest and best terms. Okay, that's the new norm now. Okay, any questions, thoughts, or concerns? All right.
Another question,
Yeah.
when you do a listing appointment now, you put the commission and then it also has on there, like, if the buyer, that I forget what the line is, it says, unrepresented buyer, then you put another percentage. So when you put that percentage in the back of my mind, I'm thinking as an agent, that's the concession I would offer to them, because the buyer, the seller's already agreed to pay this full amount.
But I want you to understand the whole purpose around an unrepresented buyer, okay? I get the intent and the reasoning behind
I mean, that's
that,
what-
right?
yeah.
Because in theory, you secured your listing compensation already, right, on the section above. Now, if the seller is willing to also give additional funds in order to facilitate it unrepresented, in the mind, you think, okay, maybe we can use that as a negotiating tool, right? I have to caution you with that, all right? I get it, but ultimately the whole purpose around that is obviously to work around someone that is unrepresented, that you're gonna take additional load. You're gonna do additional paperwork. You're going to do the initial process, but also keep in mind that you're still not representing the buyer. This does not create dual agency, okay? And we have to be very clear and concise in that approach and really explain that to the buyer. Under no circumstances am I obligated to represent you. I will do the paperwork, but understand that I am doing it for the benefit of my client, the seller. Okay, that's it. This is why you get that additional compensation in order to do the extra workload in order to close the deal.
How do you
Because the
do
goal
it?
is to close the deal for the seller's benefit, not for the buyer.
So what's the best way to do the commission? Because the seller is willing to pay 5%. But usually, normally, before all this happened, you would split it with someone. If
Yeah,
there's
well, all
nothing-
that has been removed. Remember, the listing agreement is not the old listing agreement.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk anything about cooperating compensation anymore.
So
It doesn't.
5% is the listing agent, And there's another agent, the seller can potentially pay 8% commission.
Yeah, and I'll go into it a little bit more to give you more clarity on that, but Steve, you have.
Well, I was gonna kind of piggyback on, you know, that unrepresented buyer portion of the listing agreement is a great opportunity for us now to have dialogue with our sellers of talking about concessions, okay? And so, and that's what I have used already thus far, you know, no different than in all my years, every now and then, maybe some of us have had this where we have a seller who says, I'm selling the house as is, I ain't doing a nickel's worth of repair on the house, not a nickel's worth of repair. Okay, and I'll say, well, Mr. Seller, you have that right to be able to hold a firm line. I said, but you know, rather than taking the firm line right now on the front end, why don't we wait until we get an offer, analyze what the offer is, wait for the buyer's request for repair, and let's see what that is, and then let's analyze it all together. Okay, be able to see what makes the most sense. So when we now have this unrepresented category on this listing agreement, it at least now opens the dialogue saying, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here is additional compensation that I charge, okay, if I'm going to be doing additional work with an unrepresented buyer. I also want to end up making you aware, based on these new rules, most likely we're going to be receiving requests of you, the seller, to be able to pay the buyer's obligation to pay the compensation to their buyer's agent. I just want to make you aware that we're going to be looking at that when the offer or offers come in. You don't have to make a decision now. Okay, but just like there's additional compensation, if the buyer happens to be an unrepresented buyer, this is what I charge on top of my listing percentage.
So in my past experience, if I was a listing agent to sell, I usually gave them a discount to represent both sides rather than the other way that the contract is now.
And you still can. And you can still even, and you can do that then at that point, if you then happen to end up representing the buyer, saying, Mr., you know, at that point, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I also have to now represent the buyer. And so normally the buyer agreement I have with my buyer is at 2.5%, but since I have the listing, I'll tell you what, I'm also now willing to.
But it doesn't have that there for you.
But that is when you're working on, when you submit your offer and
Later on.
That's exactly
So
correct.
that's something you talk to them.
And we also have a one pager that we created that we can also provide. So thank you, Steve. Let's go on to the next slide, please. All right, so how to market concessions or compensation. If the seller insists on promoting and disclosing a specific amount in marketing materials such as public sites, flyers, social media posts, etc., explain to them that you instead will promote it. Seller will consider concessions with the offer. Additionally, ask the seller to acknowledge via email that they have instructed you to disclose in advance to interested parties and concessions they would like to offer, ensuring you have their request on record. So basically, you know, document it, right? Make sure you have it in writing on the instructions of what your sellers are telling you, your principal sellers are telling you. Next slide. So here's some marketing, a sample with the new listing open house flyer. Okay, I know it's a little hard to see. Just list it. Okay, is this in compliance? It is. Next slide. The buyer, you're required to have the buyer sign a written agreement before touring the home. Must reflect the term, service, and associate costs. Buyer can sign either the BRBC, the buyer representation and broker agreement, or the PSRA, property showing representative agreement, or a one-page single property buyer broker agreement that we created, okay? Which, again, if you didn't get the email, let us know, we can send it, or you can scan this QR code and the PDF file will actually be populated where you can save it and use it for future reference as well. Okay, next slide. So here's the single property buyer broker agreement. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. It goes into the specifics of property, the length of the agreement, the agency agreement between you and the buyer or the the seller. For best experience, broker compensation fees, and other buyers involved or any additional terms. Buyers would sign, and agents would sign as well. Next slide. Okay, how to address buyer commissions when the buyer specifically asks about compensation in the consulting aspect, or if you do not know for certain the seller is willing to consider concessions, compensations to cover the agent's fee. Next slide. Okay, so for a buyer, I want to clarify that as the buyer, it is typically your obligation to pay the buyer's agent commission. That said, my priority is always to ensure the best possible outcome for you. With my experience and strong negotiation skills, I'll do everything I can to negotiate with the seller to have them cover the commission through a form of compensation or seller concession. Rest assured, I'm committed to representing your best interests every step of the way. Okay, so again, just a way to have a conversation when you have those buyers that are concerned that they are not wanting to pay your commissions. Okay, and as you can see that the buyer representation agreement in all agreements we have, the responsibility falls on the buyer to pay, right? But there is language and terms on there that says if anyone else does credit, then that offsets the obligation of the buyer to pay you your compensation, right? And this is just a way of practicing, right? This is something that I would embed, write it down, keep it in your mind, and just consistently role play with this. Because you're going to get a lot of buyers that are going to be hesitant to do so. Okay? There's no guarantee that the seller will give you any concessions, right? But the essence, if you have the proper document to navigate that and negotiate, you're in a better position to see if you get something. Okay. Right. Next slide. Can the buyer agent request to know the concession being offered before writing an offer? Sure. However, no one is obligated to share or disclose. When presenting an offer on behalf of the buyer, you should include page 5 of the signed BRBC agreement or page 1 of the the PSRA form agreeing with your buyer's RPA and the SPBB. It is your responsibility to send escrow a copy as well. So let me make this very crystal clear, okay? Under no circumstances are you obligated to submit your full BRBC when you submit the offer, right? You don't want to, only if request upon, right? So you're going to send your offer, you're going to send your pre-approval, you're going to send all of the advisory, you're going to send maybe proof of funds, right? Now, if the MLS says otherwise, that they're asking for a copy of your BRBC, then you're going to include it. Don't divulge it, okay, until they ask upon. Now, if you are asking for a concession, right, then that form, SPBB form, needs to be provided with your offer. That's going to be submitted to the listing agent, and that's going to be what you are asking for compensation. Now, on a counteroffer, let's say that the seller and the listing agent now countered you and asked for a copy. The only thing that you need to send on the BRBC is the 5th page of it, because on the 5th page, it has the amount of compensation that the buyer is obligated to pay you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, under no circumstances do you need to submit the entire 5 page of the BRBC. Okay, now when it comes to the PSRA, then yes, you need to send the first page of it because there is no receipt from that specific form. Okay. And if you do get your offer accepted and the seller is willing to give consideration, then you also must let the escrow officer know who is paying you compensation. Because remember, either party can pay that compensation, the seller or the buyer, right? If the buyer is responsible to pay you, then they're gonna have to bring in the additional funds, right? The closing cost down payment plus your concession or commission to pay as part of their obligation. And the sellers out of their sellers net proceeds. Any questions? You all got this, right? Because I'm gonna quiz you at the end. Okay? And if you pass, you get some chili. If you don't pass, you go home. That's good. That's good. All right, next slide.
Simon, I have a question when you're representing and.
1 second. Let me see if there's one more slide on this. Okay. So let's talk about open house and then I'll address your question, okay? So open houses, if you're doing an open house that is listed on the MLS and it's not your listing, your fiduciary responsibility is to the seller until you have a buyer agreement. It's true. I'm not the listing agent. I'm hosting on behalf of one of your agents here in the office or someone else outside of the office, right? The document stipulate and states that you are still working on behalf of the seller, and it says that very clear on the documents, right? Not until you actually have some type of written agreement with the buyer, now that changes the dynamics of it. Make sense? We should help explain, according to CAR and CRMLS, once you begin to act like an agent for the buyer, you must have a buyer agreement assigned. Just help them maybe understand those scenarios, action or communication that would put you in acting like a buyer agent. No buyer representation agreement is required to attend an open house. And on that note, you cannot refuse, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot refuse anyone because they don't want to sign your document, okay? Just because they don't want to sign, you can say, stop, nope, I can't let you in. Okay, it's an open house, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone is allowed. You can't force anyone to sign, but you have it there, right? But you're not obligated to give much information either. If they refuse to sign, here is the form, here's the flyer, you know, and that's it. That's all you can do. But to really sit down and explain the pros and cons, and then maybe interested in submitting an offer or talking about any property, then they have to have something in writing. Make sense? Okay. Is there another slide? Okay, we do require an agent to have a OHNA SI form, open house visitor, non-agency sign in. Okay, that's that one page that says, hey, we're just letting you know with all the changes with NAR, you know, this is part of the registry in order to come into the open house. It's there, you haven't signed. Most people will not have an issue with it. But you're going to have that very small percentage of people that will say, I don't want to sign it, I just want to look at it. Okay. You cannot refuse them from showing the property. You're all clear? I don't want to get a complaint. Say one of your agents refused to let us in. Don't do that, please. All right. So to be clear, even a visitor, go back, Matt, please. Go back to the past slide. All right, and we'll leave at this. To be clear, even if a visitor refuses to state their name or sign in, you're not allowed to remove them from the property or ask them to leave. Unless you have a valid safety concern.
That's not what you said in the beginning.
Even if we have a little traffic sign.
Yeah. Only if it's a safety issue, you know, then, you know, you might want to get the authorities in. Okay, so any questions regarding any of the presentation today, okay?
I just have a quick question. When you're representing, when you encounter an unrepresented buyer and you're submitting the transaction, are you actually going through all the counters and you're submitting all the counters and everything? You're just staying quiet, you're just typing in the stuff? Is that what's going on? Or you're just submitting them documents as far as?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
I think, what do you mean, the difference between dual agent and,
Non-represented?
yes.
No, so when you're actually submitting the offer, and there's a counter offer, and the actual buyer doesn't have the MLS, the docs from the MLS for the counters.
So you're saying if it's a buyer that's unrepresented
Yes.
submitting an offer?
Yeah, so are you going through everything or are you just
Yeah.
submitting them documents?
So remember, you have buyers that are working with data. And then you have buyers that are not represented, but who want to submit an offer. Remember, they don't have the tools we have, right? They don't have car forms, right? But they can literally create their own. You know, they can Google or they can just get a blank sheet. It says, I'm gonna submit an offer, here's my price, terms and conditions, sign it, and here's my offer. Okay? Yeah, literally, folks. That's what's an unrepresented client, a one pager.
Don't you have to give a disclosure saying the company is represented?
Well, not necessarily. Remember, this is an unrepresented buyer, right? This may be a sophisticated buyer or an investor. They may have their own forms that they're submitting.
Yeah, but
Okay.
are you know insurance gonna cover some?
Hold on, you're 100 steps up in front of me, here, okay? You're gonna get this, you're still gonna present it to the seller because you have a fiduciary duty to your client. You're still gonna have to submit it. The seller's gonna look at, 15 pages of the RPA, and they're gonna say, what is this, right? Well, that's an offer too, and we're gonna have to discuss it, right? Now you go into the motions of the counter offers, if you're gonna even entertain this one pager. Or have them use your forms. And that's gonna be part of the written agreement when you counter them. Does that make sense? So then that's where you would put your specific language to it to protect you, protect the seller and the entire integrity of the process. Because there might be language that does not benefit you or the seller, but it benefits the buyer. So you need to read this because what if the seller says, look, they're offering 50,000 more than everyone, let's accept this one, right?
Yeah.
But are you really taking care of your client's best interest if you're not really understanding what this form? Because there may be specific protection for the buyer and no one else. So you gotta be careful now with this.
Pencils, you can just erase
That's
that.
about
Yeah, and
There you go.
it's not a legal document.
Exactly.
So what do? You transfer it if seller likes that offer?
Yeah.
You as an agent, listing agent, you would transfer it on the regular RPA?
Well, it really depends. Remember, the listing agreement has two components of compensation, folks, okay? If you do, and I would encourage you to have that conversation when you go on a listing appointment, the importance, because of all the changes now, you want to have that additional compensation because you may have to do additional work. Brandon,
I think just to clarify, this scenario where all you're doing, you're not gonna rewrite anything in the RPA, you're gonna clean up anything in the counter. Just so you guys have some perspective of what's on here. You're the listing agent, you're gonna clean up anything else that you want to formalize through the counter offer and any other forms, docs, disclosures, all of that. That's fair.
Well, as an agent, you're legally responsible for anything you put down on paper and you're not getting paid for it. So let's make that clarification too. Because I know a lot about real estate law. And if that has your name on the bottom of that contract, not only you, but the company is liable for anything in the going on the contract.
yeah, and I agree with you, Jim. This is why I wouldn't encourage you, right? Because remember, here's the other flip side to this. If something does happen, and now we're calling car legal, and you say you have a purchase agreement that was not created by CAR, they're gonna say, I'm sorry, but I cannot give you legal advice because it's not one of our forms. So now you put yourself in that position where you have to come back to us as well and talk about it, right? And maybe have our own.
So maybe you should
Legal team.
discuss this with your client and take the listing in the first place.
Yeah,
Don't put out a CAR form, the exposure is a little bit.
and I know there's been some agents here in the office that have gotten offers that are not car forms. Okay, I know for a fact. So there's a lot of specific language in there that doesn't really protect the seller. So, please bring it to our attention and how to navigate, because this is now the new norm, is that they don't have to use our car forms. Okay? Any questions? All right, I'm getting hungry, so let's finish up with upcoming events. All right. So we have our free headshot event, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's sponsored by my NHD, Jose. So if you want to have a professional photography done, please be here. That's Thursday, October 10th. Next slide. Yeah. And if you haven't seen the office, we have a lot of amazing offices already decorated for Halloween. So, you know, we have our Halloween office door contest, okay? And the winner will be announced at our Halloween party at the end of the month. Next slide. And then a quick reminder, Halloween party, Thursday, October 24th, 5:30 to 8:30 here in the office. Costume contest, you know, will be also part of it for adults and children and scariest. Please make sure if you are planning to come with your family to RSVP. Next slide. And I'm super excited about this. If you have been in one of our producers' mindset, every Friday we have a guest speaker that we talk and get inspired. We have Jason Abram, Head of Industry and Learning at KW International. And that's going to be Friday, October 25th, 8 a.m. And John Morris will be spearheading that conversation with Jason Abram. So I'm very excited. Let's support John on that date and jump on Zoom at 8 o'clock to hear Jason Abram. Next slide. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you, we have our ethics, code of ethics standard of practice. We're having a training here to be in compliance, okay? It's going to be Thursday, November 7th from 1:30 to 4:30. Get your complimentary ethics complaint certificate and no charge to the agent. We're having a live instructor here at the office providing you. It's a 3-hour course. You must be here on time, not be late. You must be here for the entire 3 hours to get your certificate, okay? Now, how do you know if you're in compliance? If not, if you're members of the National Association of Realtors, you log into your NAR, you go into your profile, there you see if you have completed the ethics or not. Okay, if not, this is the course you need to take. You'll get the certificate, we send it to our local board, and they will upload it so that way you're in compliance. Okay? Any questions? All right, let's continue. Next. And that concludes our team meeting.
Oh, wait,
Awesome.
I'm not in the city.